where she led brand marketing and communication strategy for global consumers, brand across travel, hospitality, fashion, lifestyle, and tech. Some of the key brands she handled are South African Tourism, Los Angeles Tourism, Tinder, Hotel.com, for Amazon Fashion, Kevin Klein, amongst other. She is an ex-computer engineer, computer science engineer, and co-founded India's Indore's first student-run campus company during her undergrad in 2014 at Acropolis College. Currently, she works as a growth strategy team, founder's office, and India's largest managed accommodation startup, Stanza Living. Ma'am will shed light on student-teacher relationship during her time and how she feels about it after graduating from the school and college, how it should be. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks so much, Manju, for that kind introduction. And Mac Ma'am did tell me about the play that you have been reading about, the Browning version, and kind of took me back to when I had read it for the first time. I think while the student-teacher relationship spoken about in the play is slightly controversial, my experience at Choithram was like completely different. If I mean, I value it today more. It might seem like a lot of gyan, but Choiceram during our time was like that safe space for me. And the teachers were like, if you think about it, teachers are the only adults, real adults that you interact with beyond your family and your home, right? I mean, you're surrounded with your friends, and then you're surrounded with people you meet at coaching and tuitions, etc. But these are the only real people who are your bridge into the big bad world you're going to get into eventually. And I think that was one of the cornerstones of my student-teacher relationship at Choithram, where we were, I think I was in fact in Tagore House as well. Mac Ma'am was leading that house for a long time as well. So I think we were constantly pushed beyond our boundaries. And for me, the special thing that I realize right now is small little things that you do, you don't even realize the impact they have 10 years, 8 years down the lane in your life. Like, say you're reading a chapter or you're reading a poem, right? And you are suddenly put into the spot, and the class teacher asks you, what do you think about this? What is your interpretation of this paragraph? What is your takeaway from it? And then in that moment, you feel a little perplexed. You don't know how to really frame your thoughts. What do you have to say? I'll just give you an example. It is now 8 years after graduating, after having worked in three companies, after having done my MBA, that I realized that all those moments of being put into the spot actually helped me become a more confident speaker and actually put my opinions across in even corporate meetings. So when I was working as a PR consultant, and I'm happy to take all the questions that you guys might have later, but when I was working at a as a PR consultant, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of face time with CEOs and co-founders and vice presidents, etc. And you realize in that moment, there are very few people out there in the corporate world who actually give their opinion fearlessly and in a very comprehensive manner. And that makes you stand out because, companies are not looking for somebody, or anybody in this world is not looking for somebody who can just be a yes man, who can just say yes to everything they're saying. They're looking for independent, fearless opinions. And it just blows my mind how that little activity of being put into the spot when you were in school all this while actually amounts to something so terrific when you are out into the world, you're working, you're running your own company, you could be doing anything possible. So I think it was moments like this, and I really do feel that teachers, have that special rare gift where they can see through you. They have that intuitive sense of direction that they bring out the best in you. And I've had that experience, especially because I loved words and I loved language. I had that experience with math ma'am. I had English mein Hina Sharma ma'am. I had Kanare ma'am in Hindi. I had Nayan Bala Joshi ma'am. In fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was when I was in school, I was in seventh standard, I guess probably it was 2006, 2007, and Deepika Goyal ma'am was our vice principal. And we had this duty called the diary duty where we used to fill in the attendance and get teachers ka sign marked, right? And at the end of the day, you would go to the vice principal's room and kind of deposit the diary. And when I had moved to senior building, that is sixth standard, I had a very bad public extempore experience where I froze on the stage, etc. I loved speaking, like I was a closet speaker if there's such a thing, but I was like terrified of going on stage again. And I used to just go and drop that diary in Deepika ma'am's room, have a small talk with her at 2:33 p.m. I don't know what, but after 2 weeks of that, she suddenly stops me one fine afternoon and she's like, Shivani, you know what? There's an extempore competition happening or a debate competition happening, and I'll speak with your house captain or whoever, and you should go. I have a feeling that you're going to do great. And I She didn't even know that I had a brain freeze the last time I was on the stage. She didn't even know I have a passion for speaking. And there she was, just using that rare gift of being a teacher. And she used to have that FaceTime with like hundreds of kids during that 2:30 to 3 wala slot where everybody was going to drop their diaries. And she actually made the attempt to reach out to my house volunteers and make sure that, get this girl to audition for the next round of extempore. And I think that for me was phenomenal. Like, where else do you get this space into the world where there's so much of freedom and comfort to fail and not being judged for it? So I think MacMam also was telling me that I should also speak about how it changed for me in college. And when I graduated from Choithram, and I'm like true bred into Choithram. I joined Choithram when I was in junior KG, and I graduated when I completed my 12th. So I spent all my 14 years at Choithram. So I understand how easy it is to not value what you have because everybody around you is getting the same treatment. But the day I graduated and I wanted to pursue marketing and communications, go to Bombay, but due to family reasons that couldn't work out, I decided to stay in Indore, go to Acropolis, do engineering, like most of us. And I realized how that simple thing that you took for granted all these years became something you got identified by in college. Every time there was an event happening, especially a lot of outside classroom experiences, the very fact that I was groomed by the best of best at Choithram became a defining factor for my entrepreneurship cell at Acropolis to give me more opportunities than what other people were getting. So it's sort of a brand and a legacy also, that sense of trust that you've been groomed by the best, that I think takes you a long, long way in life. And I wouldn't blink twice before accepting that that is one of the reasons that I eventually could make it into Indian School of Business as well. So I think, value what you have. Leverage and exploit these resources because it's not going to be like this ever, ever again in your life. You plan your life 5 years down the lane, 6 years down the lane. So for me, like I'm exactly into the future. This is the life I was thinking of 8 years ago when I was in 12th standard. So I think for me also, that was one of the biggest lessons in life. In fact, like Himanshu was mentioning, that I also co-founded my own company in 2014 at Acropolis, and I didn't have MacMam's contact number or details or anything, and I really wanted to share this joy with her because I thought that she and Choithram was instrumental in what I'd achieved. And I think I went to Facebook, I messaged her on Messenger, which nobody really checks. And it so happened it was after only so many years that she actually checked that message. But for me, in that moment, sharing that joy was so important. And I think that speaks volume of the impact that teachers have in your life and how long do you carry them with you throughout your career as well. So I think, ma'am, that is a lot of what student-teacher relationship for me was at Choithram, like a safe space, my gateway into the world, a comfort zone where you could fail and not be judged as well. So I think, yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your kind words. So, any questions, children? Please feel free to ask
Come on,
any
guys, you
question
can
you
ask
have.
anything, any question
Yeah,
you want.
any question.
Any,
Yeah.
yeah, even if it is not like related to school or later or any of the work that I'm doing.
Anybody?
Okay, I have a question, ma'am. First of all, hello once again. And I
Hi.
have this question that you must have a lot many encounters with teachers when you feel that you are correct and then you get scolded, right? It happens in school and it happens to everyone because at that age we do not actually realize that are we correct or not. But according to our heart and our soul, we think that we are correct. So how do we handle such, like how did you handle such kind of situations when you were in a conflict or crosshair with the teacher and you had to like you didn't agree but you in front of the teacher you had to say that yes ma'am it is what it is and I agree with your opinion. What you used to do, like because obviously I've seen this thing with the speakers that they do not hesitate in putting their opinion across whoever it is, and that's a great thing and I really admire it in every speaker. So what do you used to do?
I think, Himanshu, that is something I'm still struggling with today when your boss wants you to do a certain thing and then you have like a conflict of opinion and you think that there's a better way to do it. But I think that's the beauty of it, right? Having two opinions or three opinions or multiple sides to it. So even now, like at the end of the day, there's a point to which you can fight. But at the end of the day, but you have to respect the authority. So I think I have nothing against respecting the authority. And I'm also a staunch believer that there's not an absolute way of looking at anything. Everything in this world is relative. So I think in those moments, what I do admire, and I think which is also something you'll realize eventually, is that you at least have the freedom to voice out your opinion, right? You're at least being given the space to justify what you think. And you must have seen there's a lot of this banter that goes around कि teacher कुछ बोलता है, then the student, and then student अड़ जाता है कि this is exactly what I believe in, and she won't understand. And the teacher is also like, no, but I know better. I really do know better. So that conversation, even that back and forth, isn't it like a privilege? Because most people I know in this world, there is no space for dissent. So the democracy that we are living in, this is also like a gift of democracy where you can engage in dissent. And I feel like learning goes out the window the moment you eliminate discussion on argument. So I feel like that's very intrinsic to so it. So I guess good for you, hold your own ground. But whenever I do feel that there's a conflict of opinion, I kind of go back and do like a little bit of self-reflection. It helps to put yourself in their shoes and see if there is merit to their point. And then you do your due diligence, right? And then you research about if it's a fact that you're arguing about. You can always go onto Google and say, and if you are right, you could always say, hey ma'am, but I found a proof for it. And if you're wrong, you could always concede as well with the same level of dignity that I know I held my ground back then, but I researched more about it and turns out you were right. So I feel like, I mean, I'm still doing it with my boss, so I think there's no end to it. So, ma'am, all of these people are in 11, so are these guys from commerce or PCM or?
It's a commerce section.
It's a commerce section. Very
I take a
interesting.
science section also, but then I decided to have this session,
Yeah, I'm sure a
the
lot of
commerce
chartered
pack.
accountants are going to come out of this class.
Harnoor, Deshna, and any questions, Sanjana?
You guys can add me on LinkedIn later, but you can use this opportunity. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of quick rewards here than anywhere else.
Yeah. Sanjana, you wanted to ask something?
No, ma'am.
Deshna? Nobody wishes to ask anything? Harnoor? You won't get this kind of an opportunity again. You can ask Shivani anything about the work that she's doing, or student teacher relationship. She's already shed light on that.
You could also ask me if you have any like confusions about your career, because I'll tell you when I was graduating, I was so confused. I wanted to do marketing and communications. I ended up becoming an engineer. Then I actually moved away from engineering and went to PR consulting, which is like a communications job as well. And then I co-founded my own company, so it was entrepreneurship, and then MBA, and then now I'm in the startup space as well. So if you guys have any questions, anything general as well, more than happy to answer it.
So maybe you can tell them about your journey. I mean, did you decide all this, or did all these things, come to you accidentally?
I think
The career
it
path
was.
that it was.
I think obviously nothing was planned or set in stone. I mean, most times you don't even know where you're going to land up. But yes, I did have an inkling as to what I wanted out of life. So when I was doing engineering, I realized in the first year or second year that this is not really cutting for me, and I want to explore the life beyond classroom as well. I was more into creative pursuits, and then it was a very conscious choice that I made. But I want to be while invested in the class. I want to do a lot of outside class activities as well. So I started leading a lot of chapters in my college. Like there was National Entrepreneurship Network, there was Young India. I was writing for a digital magazine, so I tried to explore my creative pursuit, build a portfolio for it. And then the day I graduated, I thought, okay, this is it. You are 21 only once. I want to attempt public relations, if nothing. I'd always been a little fascinated by Bollywood and glamour and the Mumbai life of things as well. And I thought, why not give it a shot? And then again, I feel like a little bit of luck also comes into play because I was fortunate. I wrote like 200 PR firms in India, and then two of them reverted, and then within 15 days I moved to Mumbai. And then during public relations also, it was a lot of realizing what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. I think you grow with time and you realize who you are. And then it was very clear that I do want to be part of the business side of things as well, and MBA was one way to do it. But like I was saying that ISB do not really take people who are not from tier one undergrad colleges as well. Like it's mostly you go there, it's IITs, it's NITs, there's Christ College, there's Xavier's. And then I was like, but I've only studied from Acropolis, even though I'm from Choithram, but it's still Acropolis in my resume. But I feel like I have believed that if you really want something, kind of universe shapes it up for you to get it. And then I studied really hard for GMAT. And because I had a little bit of different career trajectory, that really worked in my favor as well. And ISB happened. And at ISB, I realized that startup is the place to be. Even though COVID has changed the world like we know it, I think it's about adapting to changes. And I mean, if there's one thing I could say, I'd be don't fret out if you have no clarity as to what you want to do in life. You could just take the reverse approach as well, eliminate all that you don't want to do. And I think that is what's been working for me so far. I've just been eliminating things I don't want to do. And I eventually believe I'll stumble upon exactly where I belong. But it's been fun throughout, I guess, having been in so many different worlds.
And could you shed some light about the app that you're talking about?
The company that I co-founded, or the company where I'm working at currently?
The company that you co-founded?
Right. So when I was at Acropolis, I realized that in engineering colleges, you need a lot of these. So the idea was very simple. I was doing an entrepreneurship program where entrepreneurs from Seattle were flying down to Indore. They had identified 4 or 5 colleges in India, and they wanted to groom young Indians to actually light up the ecosystem, entrepreneurship ecosystem in India also. And I'm talking about 2013. Right now, on being an entrepreneur is a fad. Every second person is an entrepreneur. This is when India was really on the cusp of entering into what entrepreneurship is. We had to actually Google what entrepreneurship really means. I'm talking about 2013, 2014. So we presented a business idea where we realized in Acropolis, a lot of our submissions were on customized files. So our physics submissions, math submissions, electrical engineering submissions were on specific Acropolis customized files and papers. And we were buying them in like bulk, like thousands and lakhs of pages were bought every day from the market. And Acropolis is a little on the outskirts of the city. So we realized why not build like a merchandise and a convenience store within the campus. And we presented this idea, and thankfully it got funding from our management. They were also really supportive of the idea. And then me and my friend, we actually went out and we kind of figured out different business models. Do we buy everything in bulk? Do we get it manufactured? Do we take one vendor or do we take 4 vendors? How is the supply chain going to look like? I think none of us knew anything. Like we didn't have any textbook theory to guide us. It was just hit and trial. We used to go to Khajuri Bazaar, talk to 100 vendors in a day, where nobody really took 19-year-old girls seriously. But then eventually we managed to get crack that as well. And that's how we started in those first student-run campus company. And it's quite nice how that company is still running. So we decided to pass it on to our juniors when we graduated, because we thought it could be a good lesson in real life entrepreneurship. How you managing the stock? What if the inventory is depleted and there's an exam next day, etc., etc. So I think those are some of the real world problems that we got to navigate via that merchandise and convenience store as well. So I think go on. I mean, pitch some of it to Choithram as well. I'm sure you guys are going to get good funding as well.
We already running a business enterprise. Himanshu is a part of it. And
Oh,
from
nice,
this last,
interesting.
Himanshu is a part of it. He was a part of E-Summit also.
Yes, e-summit again. I think it's refreshing to see, man, how Choithram continues to be that leading voice in exposing. I mean, people don't realize that exposure doesn't exist anywhere. You can't keep compare. Like, go to other schools and realize you'll see how little they've seen of the world. And then the international exposure you're getting, the kind of interaction you're getting, it's so rare. And you kind of are in a box all your life, and then when you go out, you realize it. I didn't value it while it was happening.
I have another question.
Yes, Himanshu.
This would be something related to your corporate life because I just want to know, like, we run an entrepreneurship cell and we'll be working in corporate sectors in our future once at least, even if we decide to like start our companies, do our own business. How did you manage to like separate your professional life from your personal life? Because if you start a startup with your friend, there's always going to be conflict, or like regarding the business or regarding the company you're running. And all some of the times I've seen that these kind of conflicts run the company down to the water, because they get really huge. And how did you manage to separate it? Because it isn't possible that you did not have any difference of opinion with your friend while you were founding the company. So I just want to know, how did you manage it and you made the company work?
There were definitely those, Manchu, and I feel like a lot of these things, like you correctly mentioned, become sort of deal breaker eventually. So I feel getting that partner co-founder thing right is like the most important element. There are two sides to the coin. Running a company with your best friend could be the best thing ever because you're already so similar in the ways you think, etc. And it could also be the worst thing ever, which could mean the end of your friendship. So I think when you're making a decision like this, it's also good to employ a little bit of logic into it. Just don't let your heart do all the thinking. It's very important to understand how that person or how you would react when things turn south. It's all happy and joy when things are working all right, right? So I'm like, it's okay if you don't start a company with your friend. It's okay if you reach out to an outsider, but making sure that you guys stick through together during the turbulent times is extremely important. Like the company I'm working at, Stanza Living, is run by two friends who actually were at IIM Ahmedabad together in 2010. They were roommates, and then their life took them their own way, and then they reconnected all of these years. So they were telling me that one of the criteria they employed was core competency. So they had to make sure that had the same value system, but they brought different things to the table. So, say one person cared more about the profit and growth, like profit, make sure that you don't bleed money. The other person wanted to focus more on growth. So, because they could handle all of those arguments, the profit ko prioritize kare या growth ko prioritize kare. At the end of the day, they knew that the decisions that they're taking are going to be in the benefit of the company. They might feel disappointed. So, I think that is something that should be worked out way in advance, and that is a transparent conversation. I mean, there's no other way to go about it. Like you so correctly mentioned, so many ideas have just flopped just because the owners did not handle it in the right way.
Okay. Any other question, children? Yes, Sanjana wants to ask. Sanjana, you raised your hand.
Yes, ma'am. So, as you told us, you were doing engineering initially. So, what made you change to marketing and other things, and how did you realize that? And when?
So when I was in engineering, so I'll tell you, I was always a little confused between how that engineering is shown as a secure way of living life, and then there's marketing and communication that I really enjoyed. Like I really enjoyed writing, I really enjoyed speaking, and I thought maybe I'm better suited there. But because of family reasons, I couldn't go outside Indore to pursue my undergrad. So in Indore, engineering seemed like the best decision. I was like, okay, if I was decent at studies. I was like, if I make an attempt to it, I can be a good engineer as well. And I did graduate with an honors even from engineering. But within the first year, I just realized that sitting in front of a computer and coding was too monotonous for me. There was not just enough excitement. How you just realize I used to look around people around me. I used to look at my classmates, and they had just so much fun developing new programs, and they had so much fun just coding and coming up with new stuff. And I realized that I didn't feel that level of excitement. And so for me, the 6 months were really, really depressing because I thought that something was really wrong with me. A, B, this is the end of how my career will be. But then I realized that it's about going up, and I thought maybe if things are not working inside the classroom, maybe I should go outside the classroom and figure out if there's something for me. And so at that time, there were not a lot of extracurricular activities at Acropolis as well in the beginning. So I just saw that there was this college chronicle, or like a how magazine you have, right? Your annual magazine. They used to do that stuff, and it was like a 5 pager, 6 pager, जहाँ पर बस formality वाली reports आ जाती थी about what happened in which department. So I went up to my managing director and I said, give me a shot at this magazine, give me 1 quarter to work on it, and let me revamp it. I have some ideas for it. And it was a harmless thing for them. They didn't have to pay me anything, but it had a potential to be something big. And so I just went up to them. They said yes. They allocated me to a faculty. And then I spent the entire 1 quarter working on that magazine. I introduced cartoon strips in it. I went to all my friends. I went to a friend who was into photography enthusiast. I got him to click certain pictures and submit it. I created like a photo wall. I created themes for each magazine ka issue. And somehow before I knew it, I think just me, and I used to edit like 100 articles a day. I would get my friends to write it, but because they were not very print worthy, I used to sit and then edit it. So I think all of that made sure that we had three kick-ass editions, and then it sort of became like from one person, me leading that digital magazine, we became a team of 10 people and then 15 people, and that grew into something else. And by that time, Acropolis was also doing a lot of other stuff like event organizing or entrepreneurship week, etc. So I think slowly and steadily, I figured out what I really, really wanted to do, what I enjoyed, not wanted to do. And then I came across public relations and communication. I thought this is a field that maybe I want to go and explore. So I think it's a lot of accidental discoveries. But in your heart, it is not going to happen like if you keep sitting and you keep thinking about it. You have to make at least the first step. And I think then it works out. It's just about that first step that you have to really make.
That was really, really well said.
Thanks,
I'm sure
Sanjana.
all,
Thanks,
yeah,
Sanjana.
I'm sure all of you will understand, So you have to, explore the passion. Just go after your dream. You must be passionate about whatever, you're doing.
Very true. And I think you guys are
Okay.
almost about to, like, there's 1 year before you graduate, and you'll be making all of these decisions as well. And hopefully, in 7 to 8 years, I'm sure a lot more of you will be in similar classrooms and sharing more wisdom than probably I could.
So go where your heart says.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much. It's already time. So thank you so much, Shivani and Sanjana, if you
So,
could do the
on behalf
honors.
of the entire class of 11E, I would like to thank Shivani Basana for sparing her valuable time and sharing a wonderful experience at Choithram. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, man. This was an absolute, absolute honor.
An absolute pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good luck, guys. Have fun.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the experience. Was it nice hearing her? Did all of you
Yes,
enjoy
ma'am.
listening to her?
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
nice. Nice to hear that. And I think, many doubts must have been cleared. So if you could just follow, even one or two things that she said, you'll go a long way. All right, so we'll begin the next chapter in the next class. We'll be starting with Mother's Day. And let me see if I've already taken the attendance. Yes. Okay. All right, children. Bye bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.